Here's a short version of my NBA discussion, and I think I can make it real short here. Is it's not just an addiction to gamble. It's the mafia pressures people. They threaten people, and the Democrat Party is connected to mafia big time. And some people will say, "Oh well, so a Republican politician. All politicians lie." No, they don't. Some politicians believe in God, and they're afraid to lie. And then there's people who don't respect God. The one and only true proven God. Matter of fact, if you believe in a God that didn't rise from the dead, you're not afraid of that God. Not really. It's all a game. And so you could be superstitiously afraid, but you're not afraid to lie. Some of those false religions allow people to lie to trick other religions to overcome them. Right? Islam is one of those. It says in the Quran that Muslims are allowed to trick Christians in order to overtake them. You're allowed to lie. So the God of the Bible is against lying, period. And he rose from the dead. So that's the big deal, right? So so he proved he was God when he did that. Plain and simple. So the mafia, the basketball players, for some reason, more than football or any other sport, in my opinion, for the long time, they're a bunch of chickens, it seems. They're scared to talk about pro-life. So a lot of them will say, well, no, we just believe it. No, if they did speak against it, they would be in danger because of mafia, Democrat mafia. They hurt people. They shot Charlie Kirk. They did all that. They keep saying to hurt people instead of discuss stuff. They shut you up. They get mad. Oh, we don't want to hear that. They talk over people. They twist their words. They lie and call people Nazi. But you know what Nazis did? They killed Jews. But who do the Democrats support? They support Islamic groups who killed Jews, who hate Jews, and Islamic terrorists who hate Jews. They support those people for the most part. And then they're calling people who supported Israel Nazis. That doesn't make any sense, right? So Christianity supports Israel. They do. Christianity, because that's where Jesus will be King of Kings forever and ever. That's where Jesus was born. That's why we like Israel. And so, but there's a lot of Jews that don't believe in Jesus. A lot of today's Judaism doesn't believe in Jesus. They don't believe Jesus was the Messiah. And so they've rejected the Bible. They've rejected Jesus. We don't support that. But anyway, briefly, so I just wanted to say two basic things. And now if I do an explanation, I'll do it afterwards. I haven't taken 3 minutes yet. So it is a big deal what happened in the NBA, because people want to see real games, not games where they faked it or where it was fixed. And so gambling is legal in the last few years, but you know who ran the gambling industry? It's kind of like legalizing marijuana, but you charge people $400 to get a license. It's legal now. You don't have to worry about drug tests as much, so people don't pay for the license, and they still get it from the street, and then they put fentanyl in it and stuff, right? So the biggest evidence that, by the way, I still didn't say it, did I? But I'm going to. The biggest evidence of that there's something wrong with the open borders and stuff, and that you shouldn't support Democrats, is because they allow fentanyl to come here. They support and facilitate the trafficking is the word I wanted. Trafficking of fentanyl, which kills people. And they know they do. Of course they know they do. Everybody knows it. And so you could say, well, they support child trafficking. And everybody doesn't listen to that. They don't believe it. They just think you're being racist. But everybody knows fentanyl is real, and that's a big deal. And so I like bringing that up because that's genocide. They're promoting genocide of Americans with fentanyl. And a lot of people, now there are some people who don't care, because they're like, it's just going to kill drug addicts. That's all. But it's killed police. There's certain forms of fentanyl that are strong enough, if you're just near it or touch it, it can kill you, right? It's not just fentanyl, it's some other things. But that's on purpose when it's that strong, right? So you can make it weaker, you can make it stronger. But anyhow, so it's not Trump. This is not the Trump administration going to get revenge on people or anything for wanting to put him in jail. And I think I heard a clip of Stephen A. Smith saying that. I don't know if that's true that he just said that, or if it's AI or what. I didn't see the whole clip, or if that was just part of his subject and he didn't conclude it that way. I don't agree with that because the FBI found this, not Trump, first of all, but the FBI saw this somewhere in a machine. They get around. They've studied mafias, and they probably followed a mafia, and it led to this. And so it's a mafia it's a really much bigger mafia than the NBA. It's not, the NBA is just a small part of it, but there were some players involved with this mafia or influenced by this mafia, right? And so gangs, drug dealing gangs and stuff have been into gambling. They're always into gambling. You wonder why they're broke after they steal from all the addicts. They steal from all the addicts. They'll still give them one hit of dope, take their wallet, and steal drain their whole bank account. They do it from to addict to after addict and addict, and everybody thinks that addicts just spend all their money on dope. No, they didn't. They got robbed by these mafias, these drug dealing gangs, the cartels, and then that's the hard part to recover from. It's not hard to recover from drugs if it don't kill you. That is, but it is hard to recover from being robbed. I'll tell you that, especially for poor folks who didn't have insurance and everything else. But so you have, they lose their car. It's hard to get around without a car. It's hard to change into clean socks and not have stinky feet and not be embarrassed to be around people. All that kind of stuff. There's a lot of complications people don't think about. They just stereotype. So they go for the stereotype, and these gangsters and all, they know everybody's going to buy into the stereotype, and we can do whatever we want to these people. So they do that, and then they still don't have money because they gamble. They steal from these people. They go gamble. Sometimes it pays off. And then that's a lot of them are big time into gambling. And then other than that is their women take their money, right? And sometimes women are part of the gangsters and dealing group and the haters. But it seems to me, I've seen those crowds, and it seems more often a woman can sympathize with a human being quicker than a man can. And they sometimes hold men accountable. Don't kill him. Don't kill him. They do that. It's usually women that will stop a man from killing somebody in those hustle circles. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it's the women they also give the green light for them killing too. So sometimes they set people up to kill people. Men will kill a man if a woman says to kill him. So out in those circles, not always though. Sometimes the men will say no. I'm just saying generally there's more in number wise that it's like that. But so they're pressured by that, and so it's not just an addiction. They're pressured by bullies, right? So, and the Democrat Party bullies them into being surrounded by these people, right? And that's why they're scared to talk about, they won't be Christian or pro-life, and they won't talk religion. They're scared to talk religion because people get offended. They think people will get killed, or people will never talk to them again. They'll be mean to them if you talk and tell the truth that there isn't any proven God except for Jesus. He's the only one that rose from the dead. Like when your God rises from the dead, you tell us that it's a real religion instead of a false religion. It is so we have freedom of religion, not freedom of false religion. That's the bottom line there. So, but and there's in no way that you can prove that we should have a right to have false religion. It's kind of like having false basketball games. We don't want false basketball games. We want real basketball games. All right, we want real football games. We don't want fake ones. All right. So you have, and that's why this is a big deal. All right. And so the other thing, I just didn't want to belittle it and call it an addiction. Number two, it's not, it's the FBI ran across this in a mafia investigation they've actually had a real drug war, which has never happened before. So they're actually trying to stop drugs, and they have a better understanding of drugs now. That, for instance, that we've been tricked about drugs for 100 years. I won't get into who did it, but I'll say real quick, it's evolutionists, it's KKK, it's Democrats who pushed prohibition and then dumped drugs on the black neighborhoods. But the drugs that we're talking about are concentrated forms of drugs, the strongest forms of a natural medicine that God created. So all of America fell for the fact that they think drugs are from the devil. No, they're not. God created medicine. We have pain and sorrow and crying on this earth. And so medicine sometimes helps things. Sometimes alleviates things, right? And we're not getting into that debate. That's a fact. All right. And so, but they grow natural plants on trees, right? You can take 2 leaves and make a tea with it, and it's not going to be that potent to you for the most part. I mean, don't be careful. Don't just go do that. There's some things that are poison, straight poison. But if it's a medicinal plant, you can take the leaf and put it in a tea. It's got properties in it that appetite suppressants and things that you're not going to want to drink more to overdose, and it's not that strong. But when they take the drug, they make that illegal, which they did. They made that illegal, that safe form, and that's the safest form. And then they created snort forms, and smoke forms, which go directly into your bloodstream by your heart when you're smoking, through your lungs, right by your heart. And when you're snorting, it goes directly into your bloodstream, close to your brain. And those are the swindler forms. Those are really swindler forms of drugs, so that the dealer groups can be a predator and control you in different ways. So but a pill form's safer because it absorbs slowly, so it doesn't take your mind too fast. Now, you can take too many pills, and then you could say it's worse in some ways because it lasts longer. It could, but that's a safer form, so you don't get addicted as easy, right? If you want to control it, you can battle it. The things about addiction are a lie. Once you eat spinach, if you never eat spinach, you'll never miss spinach if you liked it. But that's the case when people relapse and they don't use every day. That's not an addiction. They thought that's what they wanted and that would help them on their thing or whatever for their headache. That's what works best for their headache versus because they know it does. And but it shouldn't have to cost them their life. They should make legal, safe forms like a tea or have better options, right? But so anyway, how do I get off on that? So the point is, though, it's not just an addiction. Even with drugs, it's the same way. Drugs aren't just an addiction, and gambling is not just an addiction. There are bullies, greedy people wanting people's money, wanting power and control. They like the chaos. They don't like to follow rules. There's people who actually hate to follow rules. Now, all of us are tempted to break a rule, whatever it is. Even if we're on our own diet, made our own rules for a diet, we're tempted to break our diet because that's just the way our appetites are, right? But these people are anti-God. They don't care about stealing. They don't love your neighbor, and they're not against killing and stealing, all right? So that's what really we should all join together and be against killing, assault, and stealing, murdering. That is not just self-defense killing can happen. And the Democrats are against self-defense killing, but they're pro-murder, cold-blooded murder. It's weird. But I don't know how people fall for it. Like, they attack the police. They have people attack the police, and then they get killed by accident. By self-defense, by police. And then they act like the police did the attack when those people did the attack, right? Stuff like that. And that's been a game that the Democrats have played. And they use race. They call it race. There's one human race. There's only one human race. And the Bible teaches that. The Bible shows that. It doesn't just teach it, it shows the timeline. From Adam and Eve, from Noah's family after the flood. We're all one race, many ethnicities, because God changed the language at the Tower of Babel. People move near the equator, their skin darkens. So you have dark brown skin, you got beige skin. People who have beige skin, lighter skin, it's all a shade of brown. They like to go to the beach and get a tan so their skin looks healthier. So there's nothing wrong with dark skin. It looks healthier than light skin because you can see the blemishes through lighter colored skin. And so, I'm not saying that brown skin is better all the way, because I've seen black folks that it's brown skin, but we call each other black and white. It's beige skin, it's not white. But I've seen a lot of folks when I get stuff right here, my skin dries and I don't like seeing it on the camera, right? And because it dries out and it flakes. So, but there are a lot of darker skinned people who are conscious about their calf muscles, their shins on their leg. When their skin gets flaky, they put lotion and stuff on it because they don't like that flaky skin. They feel like it shows up more than it does on the lighter skin. However, it shows up on both skins. Anyway. But so when your skin gets flaky, and that's sometimes in the winter, or sometimes, by the way, a health tip, sometimes if you've had too much coffee or tea, gotten dehydrated, basically. So those have diuretics and laxatives, they dehydrate you. And that's partly how you get flaky skin. Stay hydrated. All right? Get your vitamin C. Get your proper protein, and that battles flaky skin through diet. All right, without having to do anything else. Anyway, but I tried to make this short, and I couldn't do it. But I partly keep forgetting my point, and I don't want to say Stephen A. Smith said this because I don't trust the internet, and I know sometimes he says a point I don't quite agree with. But the point that I heard him say that I wasn't sure if he said it in that context, what context it was in, is that something about Trump he's just trying to get people back for trying to put him in jail. He made it seem like that. That's not what's going on here, first of all. Second of all, that's deflecting responsibility. These guys, you have to be responsibility. We can't have people faking injuries in games and leaving games to help somebody win a gamble, right? And to steal money in a gamble. You can't be doing that stuff. This may contest the legalizing of gambling. I don't know if that's part of what's going to come up in the debate, whether we should keep gambling legal, that has recently been legalized, or should we just make sure these rules are followed and keep it legal, because it's probably worse when it's illegal and these gamblers aren't going away. But I don't know. That'll become a debate probably. Yeah, these guys, you can't allow it to affect games, first of all. So that's a real thing. It's not Trump. I mean, you really want the NBA to be that fake, even though they're fake when they go and say, "Oh, Shaquille O'Neal is the most caring person in the world," and some other ball players think that is true because they see him give here and give there. But I tell you what, but he didn't help David Robinson very much when he lied about him his whole career, claiming he wouldn't give him an autograph because he wanted to compete with David Robinson, so he lied about him for 14 years or whatever. And now that's a big deal. That's bearing false witness against your neighbor. And so I used to think they underrated David Robinson because of that. And then I was looking at David Robinson's stats and everything, and I'm like, he's better than these other guys. And he was during the regular season. But when it came, so recently I just realized this is why I don't have him in my top anymore. He's still a top in some ways. There could be an explanation for why his field goal percentage went down in the playoffs. But his field goal percentage did go down in the playoffs. And it could be because they used him as a defensive player who would shoot outside, and they let Tim Duncan shoot inside, because technically Tim Duncan's a center, not really a power forward, and they put him at power forward because David Robinson was labeled as the center, is what I hear, and it makes sense. So I've always wondered why Tim Duncan's called a power forward. You know, he's not a stretch four. He's a little smaller than David Robinson, than the average center back then, a little shorter. So maybe they did like him at power forward because of his size, but he's not your traditional power forward, although that varies. So anyway, but the point is, David Robinson's shooting field goal percentage did go down in the playoffs, whether he changed positions or whether he couldn't handle the pressure of the harder defense in the playoffs. Going against the best centers, usually going against the best centers in the league during the playoffs. But he had games in the regular season he did that and still did well. But anyway, he scored his 71-point game or whatever it was. I think it was 71, not 72 or 70. I forget. But I think, but he scored it. I'm almost thinking it's against Shaq, but I got that mixed up. I think he scored it and beat Shaq's point record for that year by scoring that many points. But I don't know if it was the same game. But I have seen him have good games against those guys too. But that's because he could shoot inside and out. So I might be wrong in not putting David Robinson in my top anymore, and I forget where I got on that subject. But, geez, I forgot where I got on there. But, gee whiz. But right now I have Hakeem Olajuwon, Wilt Chamberlain, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as my top three. And you can, depending on what you want, there are three different styles. Depending what you want, you could rate either one. But Wilt Chamberlain has the most balanced defense and offense over Hakeem. He's more of a he could score more than Hakeem Olajuwon, and he could score more even than Kareem, right? But Kareem's good at offense. That's what he's good at. Wilt's a little better at defense than Kareem, or maybe even better than Olajuwon. But what Olajuwon's good at, he's not better than Olajuwon at guarding, switching, and guarding guards and perimeter players. So those are my top three, and their playoff statistics were not harmed in the playoffs like David Robinson's. And then Shaquille O'Neal, he's just second to Hakeem Olajuwon in my view, in that style and similar style. And he's not the same as Kareem either. So I put him right behind those guys. But anyway, and right now I don't have, I might find something in my studies that puts, I am stuck on this subject, sorry, Bill Russell back in that subject. But for me, you look at his shooting percentage, it's kind of like David Robinson's, not just in the playoffs, but regularly. His shooting percentage is too low for me, his field goal percentage. So it's just too low. He's got maybe the best defensive player of all time, they say. If it's not Hakeem, too. But they say Bill Russell's way better than everybody on defense. And so I like that. I'd sure take him on my team. But when you got an option to have Kareem, who's good on defense and offense, but not quite as good as Hakeem Olajuwon and Wilt Chamberlain on defense, but he's close. But when you have an option to have a two-way player instead of a one-way player, I take it, unless their defense is just weak. Okay, but if they got good enough defense, plus they add offense, that matters, in my opinion. Sometimes it doesn't. If you got a Michael Jordan on your team, and you have Bill Russell in the post, I still want a better shooter than Bill Russell, frankly. But you got Michael Jordan. You can have Dennis Rodman at power forward and still have a pretty good shooter at center. See, so Dennis doesn't have to score when you have Michael Jordan. See what I mean? So anyway, so Dennis is really, when you put him in that mix, he's one of the best players of all time for that position. On a team with Michael Jordan, you might not have a better player because Michael gets to score without anybody complaining. Hey, Dennis doesn't say, "Hey, why didn't you give me the ball?" Anyway, but he's the best defensive player in history, maybe in that position specifically. So anyway, and he can guard everybody on the court. So anyway, I got off on that, but and I can't. And I'm fishing for why I started on that point, and I did have a reason I started on that, but we want real games. It's not somebody taking revenge. We're trying to get justice everywhere we can. And proper justice and fair justice, neighborly fair justice, not fake justice like the Democrats always try to do. And so they lie about who's racist. The Democrats are racist. The Democrats are the racist party who does not believe in God and love your neighbor. All right? They're the racist party who supports false religion that goes against the real God who taught us, who's the author of love your neighbor. They're against the God who created one human race from God, Adam, and Eve, and acknowledges we are one human race. They are against the Declaration of Independence, which defines us as, the extremists especially, it defines us as one human race under God, created in the image of God, who are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the Declaration of Independence. I didn't read the first part, but I already told you what it means. It means we're one human race. And so if you go in further study of it, you realize we're different ethnicities and the skin darkened, right, near the equator. Makes sense. Over a few thousand years living separately before we could learn that we could learn each other's languages, human beings, that's a long time. Your body has to adapt to that environment, and your skin becomes darker. And so there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I mean, it's some people have used it to promote their beauty. If you have a good tan, they go out there and show it off and promote darker skin. Well, you still you could promote lighter skin too and show off in a bikini and make everybody think that lighter skin is better. And you can do that with darker skin too. Women have that ability. I guess a man can have that ability if he's a bodybuilder too. But it's irrelevant. What's in here is appreciate the life God gave us, the wind, the mornings, the redemption every morning, grace every morning. It's shown right here in nature and all that. So I went on and talked about other stuff here. But so the 2 points, if I can reiterate, and I keep forgetting them, I'm just waking up. I don't know what's wrong here. But the 2 points are that I've seen is gambling is not just an addiction. It's bullied by the mafia. Number 2, it's a big deal. It's not just somebody taking revenge. It's a big deal. People want authentic games. They want real games. They don't want fake games. All right. We don't want people doing fake games, and we don't want our NBA players being bullied and helping people who steal from people. All right. And so you've never seen my last closing statement, I guess, is you've never seen. Somebody got killed at Miami when LeBron James was there. Somebody that worked on the basketball team. I think it was one of the trainers or something. I forget. You never heard him talk about that. You've never heard any NBA player. I've never heard any NBA player speak against violence. They promote violence, matter of fact. But on the court, they promote violence. And they didn't. And they always compare the old ones talk about the new ones. the referees and the people in the talk shows back when the old NBA players played, they didn't promote violence on the court. It happened, but they spoke against it. So it couldn't have happened as much as they pretend it does, but it looks like it does when you take the highlights. If you take today's highlights of dirty plays, it could look just the same almost, right? But they've taught players to be more violent. And so it may happen more than it did back then, but you just don't string all those plays together and show it. I mean, I've seen Draymond try to do violence on LeBron James a few years ago. I've seen different things that were not right and were on purpose. And so, but they don't show those plays over and over. And if they did, I'd be angry. But, so, anyway, the closing statement was, but you never hear, in the NBA, they'll call it out some, but you've never heard them say, don't do drugs. Here's what I've heard from NBA players, and LeBron particularly. Y'all tried to lock him up just for stealing. That's all he did was stealing. The police came after him for robbing a store or whatever it is. And that's the kind of things we shouldn't want people to be held accountable for. If you steal from somebody, you should pay him back. And then be resolved of it. But if it's with a gun and violently, then that's another issue too. You got to make sure they're safe. They're not a danger to the public. They probably should be detained. Especially if they did hurt somebody. Now, the caveat is sometimes they're there, they're ready to hurt somebody, and they didn't have to, and they didn't do it, but they would have. They can't always catch that. But that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't go create situations where you're going to have to hurt somebody just to feed your pocket. But you have to learn patience. And some people say, but there's no other way. And there isn't. It doesn't seem that way a lot of times, but you got to learn to wait and go through a homeless venue or something, and someone will be like, I ain't doing that. But you should wait and be patient, technically. I mean, that nobody's ever offered that admonition, and a lot of them don't even agree with it, but I'm right. I'm right when I say that. But, but I do understand here and there's certain extreme circumstances where you can't wait because the mafia might kill you if you don't come up with the money. And some people say, well, that's still no excuse. I've seen this side that will say that's no excuse. But you still would try to get money and not hurt somebody at least, So if you do that, but I would advise trying to run and escape and move to another state or something, But they say don't snitch. Those are the kind of things you should have help on and have people, but people won't help you a lot of times because they'll say, well, it's your fault for being involved with it. But society should help people against violence and against theft. So the caveat is the word snitch comes up because of drugs. Because a lot of people thought drugs were racist. Making them illegal was a racist thing. And there was racism involved in that. The Democrats purposely dumped drugs on black neighborhoods after they're the ones that pushed prohibition to make them illegal, and then dumped the concentrated forms in black neighborhoods while making the plant legal, right? And so anyway. And just for a health tip, the only safe way to use the medicine is to drink the tea. Take 2 leaves off the tea, the medicinal plant tea, and drink it as a tea. So the concentrated street forms are snorting and smoking. Smoking is not safe. No matter how you do it, smoking is not a safe option. It's not the safest option. You should want the safest option for your own body, right? So, but if you smoke and you have trouble with it, you just battle it, and you don't. If you can limit it and not smoke as much and find tricks to help yourself easily get off, slowly wean off it, you should do that. If you're not doing it, then you probably don't believe in God. Bottom line. If you say you believe in God and you're not trying to at least limit what you do or try to find ways to keep trying. Some people say, well, he failed. He doesn't really believe in God. They said that about me. But I've always tried to take the best care of myself I can. And if I give in to something, I give in to something, but I still keep trying to figure out what it was in my mind that led me there. Or you just got to keep trying. You're going to keep trying because if you really believe in God, you're going to keep trying. I'm not going to say you're going to always succeed, but you're going to keep trying. And some people will say, well, if you claim you're not always going to succeed, then you don't believe in God. No, the Bible never says, or Paul tells us there's always a battle between the flesh and the spirit on this earth. But in heaven is when you'll be perfect and you'll never sin again, all right? But just don't stay in the mud when you fall in it, all right? And do what you can to avoid the mud. And your steps may and coordination. Bottom line, you may figure out how to stay out of the mud all the way it's possible. But just stay out of the mud. Don't stay in it when you fall in it. Gotta go.